What's happening YouTube? This is Champion 2D Rob back again with another video, and this time I am doing a DVDs and Blu-ray pickups part 1. This video is going to be focusing on a lot of animes I have picked up over the last few months. Yes, lately I have been on a serious anime kick, and it's mostly stuff from the past. Stuff that I used to have on VHS, or stuff that I was aware of but never got around to picking up, so I've sort of been picking them up on DVD or Blu-ray. So that's going to be the focus of today's vid. In part 2 I will be showcasing all the movies that I've picked up over the past few months, so a lot of great stuff to show as well, guys. So yeah, so I thought I would start with the anime stuff, and before we get started I would like to make a couple of special mentions here, and I'm going to dedicate this video to them, and I'm going to shout out the VHS bootleggers. So that's Pedro, Mike and Mark, VHS bootleggers, guys. Check them out. I will leave a link in the description box below. And I also want to shout out my good friend Lee, the Retro Chef. Again, I will leave a link to his channel in the description box below, so definitely check him out if you haven't, guys. But basically, yeah, this all sort of started after I was watching a live stream between Pedro and Lee, the Retro Chef. Now, they were doing a live stream on anime, and Lee is someone that absolutely loved anime growing up. He's got stacks of the old VHS tapes, and he was sort of going through them and sort of talking about each one and whatnot. And I myself, growing up, actually had a load of anime tapes. I actually, my first any real sort of collection was anime. I used to collect manga tapes back in the day, which I actually still own. And you know what, I will actually I do plan on making a video showcasing all those VHS tapes that I collected back in the day. So yeah, they're the ones that really sort of got me sort of hankering for the old anime. And I sort of went back and I started watching stuff like on YouTube, just random stuff I missed, stuff from the 90s that just completely missed me by, like a good example, something I'd never seen, Berserk, the old series. I believe that came out in the late 90s. I started watching a bit of that, and also watching, you know, a lot of the classic stuff that I did grow up with, stuff that I'm actually gonna show you here, guys. I was able to track it down either in DVD format or Blu-ray format. And I have to say though, trying to pick them up, it's been frustrating because most of the stuff that I grew up on back in the 90s is not available in this country for the most part on Blu-ray or DVD. They're either mostly on Region 1 releases, which is no real bother for me because I have a Region 3 player. But you know, you do have to import, and so it can get pricey, especially if you're buying a lot of stuff. You are facing a lot of import charges and whatnot. Fortunately, a lot of them were bought from Amazon US, and while they do charge you for import taxes and for shipping, it's not too crazy. So it's better to buy through Amazon than going through like an eBay seller or whatnot, because I tend to find the shipping costs as well as import costs tend to be a lot more. So I was quite fortunate in that regard. But there's still a lot out there that has yet to even be released, even in Region 1 territory. So it is kind of frustrating because there's still a lot of good stuff that's still only available on VHS. But anyway, yeah, so I've picked up quite a stack of animes, pretty much all of it from the 90s, barring a couple maybe. And yeah, I've been loving it. I've been loving going through them. I've still got a lot of them still sealed out. I still need to sort of go through some of these, but anyway, I'm going to stop faffing about and get right on with the pickups, guys. So I'm going to start off with all the DVD pickups. So a lot of this stuff either hasn't got a Blu-ray release, or it did have a Blu-ray release, but from a picture quality standpoint, it probably wasn't even worth picking up. But anyway, let's get started. The very first one I want to show you guys, and that is the Doomed Megalopolis, the special edition. So Doomed Megalopolis did come out in the UK back in the 90s, and it was a 4-part series, and it was even shown late night Channel 4 in the mid 90s as well. And I remember catching a couple of episodes. I never saw the whole thing. Even to this day, I never owned it on VHS, never got around to really watching this fully, so I thought this would be a great opportunity to do so. And yeah, it's really cool. I don't really know what it's fully about. I do know it's got a guy who looks very much like a bison, like M. Bison, dresses like a dictator, and it sort of deals with the supernatural. But I've yet to check it out yet. But it's quite a famous one, and I know a lot of people are aware of this. I know Pedro from the VHS Bootleggers, he recently picked up a couple of tapes of this, so yeah, I look forward to checking this one out. Here's one that I remember seeing a lot back in the day in the shops, and I never picked it up. I guess because at the time it didn't really appeal to me. I didn't really know what it was about, and I wasn't sure if I was going to like it or not. But I thought I'd get it now, and that is Mad Bull 34. So this is basically sort of like a buddy cop action comedy set in New York, but it is a Japanese anime. It's quite a crazy one, very 90s, and yeah, I look forward to checking this one out. Actually, like I say, I remember the tapes. I remember seeing them in HMV back in the day, and at Virgin Megastore as well. I remember seeing the tapes of this, but again, because it's sort of like focused on cops and whatnot, I wasn't sure if I was going to be into it. But from sort of the footage I've seen, that it looks kind of crazy. It's definitely very 90s and very non-PC. I don't think they could get away with this today, but I definitely look forward to giving this one a go. Next one I have here, and this is an upgrade from my VHS copy, and it's one that I really do enjoy, and that is Angel Cop. And again, this is like a 4-part series, and I don't really know how to explain this one. It's crazy. You've got people with psychic powers, you've got cyborgs, and you've just got crazy police officers. It's a mental, violent. It's I would say this is probably not high class anime. It's definitely very trashy, but I say that in a good way. Like, it is very trashy. The dub is questionable, but for me it's just so enjoyable. The dub on this, it's just so over the top and sweary and violent, and just I enjoyed it. I mean, I enjoyed it back in the day. I still enjoy it now, but it is sort of lowbrow stuff. Like, this is not the kind of anime you want to show to someone who has no experience with anime at all. It is very trashy, but I'd have it no other way. That's how I like it, and this is definitely a cool one to add. Great action anime, very cool, very much of its time. Next one I have here, and again this is another upgrade, and that is Goku Midnight Eye, and this is a 2-part OVA. And if you don't know what OVA means, it basically means original video animation, and what that actually is they were animes that were made directly for video. They were straight to video, straight to the rental market, and straight to TV, and they were usually episodes. They were not feature lengths. They were normally made up of about 40 to 45 minute episodes, and this was just a 2-parter, and this was actually directed by the same guy. I forget his name. It really annoys me. Yoshiaki Kawajiri. So the same guy that brought you Cyber City, Ninja Scroll, Wicked City, Monster City. He made this as well, and it's just as fantastic. I had this back in the day on 2 VHS tapes, and I'm glad to have it on DVD. But there is one snag, there is one problem. The only issue is, unfortunately, this is one of those ones that has a different English dub. This is an American release. This is a Region 1 release, and the US got a different dub to the UK. and unfortunately there is no UK release of this, so we don't have the old UK dub. So I'll have to hold on to my VHS tapes. But you know what? The dub on this is perfectly fine. There's nothing wrong with the US dub at all. It's just obviously I grew up with the manga UK dub, and so unfortunately it's not on here. But it's still very watchable, and I do enjoy this one a lot. I go back to it quite a bit. Next one I have here, and this again is an upgrade from my VHS tapes, and this is a feature, and that is Winds of Amnesia. And this is a really cool feature film. I really enjoy this one. It's basically set in the US. It's sort of set in a post-apocalyptic US, where essentially what has happened is there's like this mysterious wind sweeps across I imagine the world. I don't recall if it's the world or just the US. I imagine it's the world, and essentially all of humanity reverses back to like sort of like a caveman sort of mentality. So they all become they're all their memories and skill sets and anything that makes them civil is gone. They sort of revert back to a very sort of primitive era people. And essentially you got this main guy who was a victim of the wind like everyone else, but as he was sort of scavenging for food, he sort of stumbles into this hospital, and there he meets this kid who is not affected by the wind, and the reason for that is because he has a computer for a brain. He's been experimented on, and this kid sort of teaches the guy to read and write and whatnot. So he sort of comes back to sort of a normal level of intelligence, and eventually he sets out into the world, and it sort of goes on from there. And it's a really cool storyline. I think this probably would have been better served as a TV series, because I do feel there are parts of it that don't get fully fleshed out, and I think just because of the runtime. But it's a really cool story, and I definitely recommend people check out Winds of Amnesia. It's just one of my favourite ones. It does have some slow parts in it, but I feel it tells an interesting story, and it's just a little bit different from what you normally expect from traditional anime, especially from this era. So yeah, really cool one to get. And the last two DVDs I have here are the 3x3 Eyes series. So basically this is the complete set of 3x3 Eyes. Another favourite of mine. Growing up, I have all the tapes, and unfortunately this is another victim of a different dubbing, and again this is not the same dub that I grew up with, and I actually did not know that when I bought it. I was quite disappointed by that. I just really like the voice acting in the original tapes. But you know what, it's still cool to watch, it's still great to have. This is definitely one of my favourite stories. I really hope that they re-release this in Blu-ray with the bells and whistles in the UK dub and whatnot, because I feel it deserves it. This was a really cool storyline. It wrapped it up. A really enjoyable sort of action, supernatural story. Really cool. Yeah, 3x3 Eyes. Definitely worth checking out. And that's it for the DVDs, and now we're going to move straight on to Blu-rays. So the first one is, I suppose technically this is, I mean it is an anime, but it's based on an American property, and this is Supernatural, the anime series. So for those of you that don't know, Supernatural is an American TV show that only just wrapped up recently. It ran for 15 seasons, which is incredibly long. But I'm a huge fan of the show. Like, I love that show. It really is a fantastic show about two brothers that basically go on the road, and they're hunters, and they hunt the supernatural. So werewolves, vampires, all sorts of monsters and whatnot. Really cool show. And so basically Madhouse, the same developer that made the Ninja Scroll series, basically adapted episodes, because I believe this came out, I think, just after the second season or the third season, and it kind of adapts the first season of the show, which I found kind of disappointing. I would have much preferred it to be sort of all original episodes. So this has about, I think it's had about 20 episodes, and some of them are just animated adaptations of the live action shows, and there are a few that are original stories. And what's also cool is that each episode is also introduced by the actors of the show, and one of the actors actually voices the character throughout, whereas the other actor doesn't for some strange reason, even though he introduces the show. It's really odd, but in any case, this is really cool for fans of Supernatural, and if you've not watched Supernatural, I definitely recommend it. It's a really fun live action show. But I would say this is more for the hardcore fans. I don't think if you're not really fully invested into Supernatural, the live action show, you probably won't get much from this. But I do very much enjoy it. Okay, next up we have here, and this is one Blu-ray that I've been waiting for years. I have been constantly harassing anime distributors to put this out constantly. I even had at one point I had someone representing Manga UK write back to me from after I'd sort of wrote this like really long thing about how they should put this out, and he actually responded to me about how Manga UK no longer had the license, and explaining why some of these properties were not getting released. Just a lot of legal red tape, as you would expect. But finally someone put it out. It wasn't Manga UK. I believe it was called All in Anime, I believe they were called. But they released this really cool set. But anyway, the film I'm talking about is Cyber City Oedo. And I was extremely happy when they put this out, because essentially this has not only the original dub, I mean there was only one dub anyway, but it has the UK dub. But more importantly for us Brits, it has the UK exclusive soundtrack that was not the Japanese original, but for a lot of people, including myself, it's far superior to the Japanese soundtrack. It was amazing. And you know what makes this a cooler set to own is they actually included a CD of the soundtrack as well. Now that's not really a big thing for me, because I've actually owned the soundtrack to Cyber City for years now. But it's cool that they included it in this set. So this is definitely worth picking up, and I recommend people definitely check out Cyber City any way you can if you've not seen it. It really is some fantastic stuff. Again, it's of its time. This came out, I think it came out in 1990 or 1991. But I loved it as a kid. I couldn't get enough of it. It's an OVA. It's a 3-part OVA, and I kind of wish they'd made more, because it really is such a great one to watch. It's action. It's got some supernatural elements, cyberpunk. It's an amazing show. But there is one snag with this Blu-ray, and unfortunately, it's the quality of the picture. Unfortunately, it wasn't upscaled right. There's a lot of visual noise in the picture, especially during the parts that are sort of steeped in shadow, which unfortunately that's a lot of, because there is a lot of dark moments in this show. So unfortunately there's a lot of distortion, and it really is distracting. I found it very, very distracting, and they did not do a good job with the transfer, unfortunately. Kind of a lazy transfer. But you know what, this is probably the best we're going to get, so you know, hey ho, it is what it is. But you know, glad to finally have it on Blu-ray in any case, even though the picture is not perfect. Maybe one day it will get reissued with a much better transfer, but for now I'll have to make do. I've still got my original tapes as well, but yeah, glad to have it in any case. Next one up here, and this came out just before Cyber City, and when they announced this I got so excited, because again, this is one that I've wanted on Blu-ray for such a long time, and I wasn't even expecting it to be a double pack either. But here we are, and we've got Wicked City and Monster City, and Monster City is now called Demon City Shinjuku. That actually was its original name, but here in the UK it was known as Monster City. But for this Blu-ray release, they've gone back to the original name of Demon City Shinjuku. So anyway, I'll just show them individually just so you can get a better idea of what they are. So this is Wicked City. I'll start with this one actually, and this is awesome. Again, I had this on a VHS as a kid. In fact, I actually had them both as a double pack, and this was definitely one of my favorites. And fortunately, the transfer to this is fantastic. It looks amazing. Only bad point is it doesn't have the original UK dub. It's got the US dub. Now, for those of you that are picking this up, if you've never seen this anime before, don't worry about it. The American English dub is perfectly fine. It really is. There's nothing really wrong with it. But it's just not the dub that I grew up with. And it's a shame that it wasn't added on here. So it was a disappointment for me. But it still looks great, and it's uncut as well. That's probably one thing I should mention, that this is uncut. So unlike our VHS version from back in the day, which was censored, this is not. So definitely worth this. And Demon Sea Shinjuku, aka Monster City, this is fantastic. It's exactly the same as what I watched as a kid. I think it's uncut as well. I don't recall if there was anything missing. In any case, it will be the full version, and the dub is exactly the same as it was in the UK release. This never had a different dub, and I love watching this as well. And again, the picture looks great, so really chuffed to get those. Anyway, so yeah, I was left disappointed by the fact that this release did not have the UK dub for Wicked City. But then later on, I found out that the American release of Wicked City, oddly enough, did have the UK dub as an option. So because I am hardcore like that, I went out and got the US dub as well. And yes, this does have the original UK dub as well as the American dub. And again, picture looks fantastic. So I'm really chuffed to finally have this one. And I don't mind paying extra for it. It wasn't that much, to be honest. And again, I bought it off Amazon, very easy enough. And yeah, the nostalgia came flooding back. Just absolutely love the manga UK dub on this. It's very sweary, because it just goes back to those days where they kind of felt that they needed to add extra swear words to make the animes appear more edgy. But I just love the original dub to this. I love how certain words get spoken, and yeah, I just love it. So I'm glad to get this version as well. I mean, it's not a complete waste with the other one, because at least I do have Demon City Shinjuku as well. But this will always be the one I'll watch for the most part. But yeah, I'm really chuffed to have that. Next up, I have here, and this is something I've been wanting to get for ages. I always put it off for some reason, but I actually got this for Christmas, and really chuffed with it. It's one of my favourite anime IPs, and that is Fist of the North Star, the TV series. So this is the original show from the 80s. I believe it. I don't know if this came out before the animated film that most of us are familiar with, or it came afterwards, because the film is basically a very condensed version of this series. And I've actually never seen the series properly. I've seen a few episodes, but I've never seen it fully before. And what's interesting is the fact that in the UK they did release this series on DVD back in the day, but they only released the first 35 episodes. And I believe this is like 152 episodes, so only 35 or 36 episodes, I believe, were released in the UK with an English dub. And I believe they never actually put an English dub to the entire series. So this set has all the episodes, but it only has an English dub for I think up to 36 episodes, and then the rest is Japanese only, which is a shame, because I do like my English dubs. But it's not enough to deter me, because I am a huge Fist of the North Star fan, and this is probably one that does tell the whole story of Fist of the North Star. So I'm very happy to finally get this on Blu-ray. Yeah, 142 episodes. Look forward to checking this one out. Next one I have here is, and this one again I'm really chuffed to have as an upgrade. I did have this on VHS, also had it on DVD, but I'm glad to have it on Blu-ray because it does look amazing, and that is Vampire Hunter D. So this is the original anime that came out in the 80s. There are two Vampire Hunter D animes. This is the first, and then there was Vampire Hunter D Bloodlust, which came out in 2001, which I also love. I think that one's fantastic. But this one's amazing as well. Unfortunately, it only got a Blu-ray release here in the US, and it's a lovely transfer as well. So really chuffed to get Vampire Hunter D. I really like this character. I just kind of wish they'd release more. I'd maybe like to see a series of Vampire Hunter D. He's sort of become obscure now, but you can still buy the books. Vampire Hunter D is based on a series of books, and you can buy them easily enough on Amazon. I've never read a single book. I do have the game on the PlayStation 1. He did have a game which was based on the second anime, and it's kind of like a Resident Evil game with sort of like tank controls and whatnot. But this is a really cool one. I definitely recommend people check out Vampire Hunter D. If you like Castlevania, this is definitely one you should check out. Really cool Castlevania vibes from this as well. Next up here, and this is one of my favorites, and that is Devilman, the complete OVA series. So basically it's a two-part OVA series. It came out originally in the early 90s. This was also two of the animes that came out late night, Channel 4, mid 90s, and I absolutely loved these two OVAs. Just fantastic, gory as hell, just sweary, just so cool. Yeah, I love this anime, and I was so happy when I found out it had a Blu-ray release. Unfortunately, it is a Region 1 release. It didn't come out here in the UK, so I had to import it, but really happy to get it, and the picture looks amazing as well. The dub is exactly the same. Yeah, just absolutely loved it. And it's worth noting, probably a lot of you that are familiar with Devilman are probably aware of the Netflix show which was called Devilman Crybaby. And basically what Devilman Crybaby is, it's basically a retelling of this, but it actually takes the story all the way to its conclusion, because at the time that this was made, the story hadn't been finished. So this was only like a portion of the story, whereas Devilman Crybaby adapts this, but also goes further and actually finishes the story off. But I have to say, I was actually very disappointed by Devilman Crybaby. I just didn't like the animation. I didn't, because they did make changes as well, I guess, to sort of adapt with sort of today's times, and I just felt let down by it. It was still gory. They didn't compromise on that aspect, but I don't know, it just didn't work for me as well. I prefer the animation of this one. I just like the grittiness of this one a lot more. I kind of wish they'd continued the story with this style of animation, but you know, it is what it is. But I'm glad to finally have these two on Blu-ray, because again, I used to watch these so much as a kid, loved them so much, so really chuffed to get this one. And following on from Devilman, I have here Devilman Lady. Now this is one I've never seen before, but I remember hearing about it back in the 90s. And it did actually come out in the UK on DVD. It came out in the early 2000s, but I never picked it up. Because in the early 2000s, by that point, I sort of stopped watching anime. But I remember seeing it on the shelves in HMV, but I just never bothered with it because, yeah, I just sort of fell out of love with anime at that point. But I'm glad to finally get a chance to watch this. This came out in the late 90s. And yeah, unfortunately, again, it's another Region 1 release. Only came out in the US. But I look forward to checking this one out because I've never seen it before. It is just as violent. I mean, it was written by the same guy that did the original Devilman, so I'm looking forward to checking out Devilman Lady. Okay, and last few here we have, and this is a cool one, and that is Giant Robo, the complete series. Now this was a series that I wanted to get back in the day on VHS, never got around to it because I remember seeing the adverts for Giant Robo and it looked amazing, but I just never got around to it. This came out again. This was originally a mid-90s, mid to late 90s show, and it's basically about a kid. It's based on, I think is it called Gigantor, or there's another name for it, Tatsujin. It's called Tatsujin 28, something like that. Sort of based on an old sort of 60s anime, and this was like the sort of 90s version of that. And it's really cool. So you've basically got like this kid who controls a giant robot, sort of via remote control kind of thing. And there's all these sort of other heroes and all like sort of secret agents and whatnot. It's really, really cool. And I'm really glad when I saw this was available on Blu-ray, I had to snap it up. Always wanted to watch it. Again, you can get this in the UK on VHS. But like, I missed out on it. There's 7 episodes in total, so there's 7 tapes. There should be 7 tapes, and yeah, really, really cool anime, giant robot. It just sort of harkens back to that golden age of 60s and 70s era giant robot anime, but in a very cool 90s design style. So yeah, really chuffed to get this one. Okay, and the next one I've got here is Cobra The Animation. Now this is actually a modern one. This came out, I believe, in 2010, and essentially it's sort of a retelling of the old space adventure Cobra anime that came out in the early 80s. That did come out again in the 90s on VHS, and I believe there was a series that's sort of like an 80s series that came out as well. And while I was sort of looking up, doing some research on Space Adventure Cobra, just because I was trying to find out a bit more about what this one was, I learned that Space Adventure Cobra was really popular in France in the 80s. It was like massive. So I didn't know that, because in the UK the anime film was popular amongst anime fans, but it never really sort of broke the pop culture like some of the others. Like, most people don't really bring it up as much, but those that do know about it do love it. So anyway, this one was made in like 2010, and it's basically a retelling of that film, as well as sort of more stories as well. It's got really nice animation and stuff. And again, I had to import this from the US. But unfortunately, what I didn't realise when I bought it is that there's no English dub. It's completely Japanese and subtitled, which I found very strange. You don't see that much in Western releases. They're normally all dubbed, but this one wasn't. Still, it is fantastic. I've watched a few episodes of it so far, and the animation's great. It definitely keeps to the style of Space Adventure Cobra. And for those that don't know, Cobra is basically this guy. It's sort of set like in a futuristic Star Wars kind of world. And Cobra is, as you would expect, he's very much like a Han Solo type. He's like a Han Solo, James Bond type of guy. Like, you know, he's a fighter and a lover. And this is definitely not very PC as well. I can imagine a lot of feminist groups not liking Space Adventure Cobra. But it's interesting the fact that even though this came out in the mid 2000s, it very much sticks to the style and humour of the early 80s stuff. Because you can get away with it in the 80s, but you probably couldn't get away with this now. But definitely a cool one to have. I'm a huge fan of the Cobra character, actually. There was actually a figure. Who was it? I forgot the name of the company now. They recently done like a line of figures with Guyver as well, but yeah, they released a figure and I kind of missed out on it, which I'm a bit gutted by that. But yeah, really cool one to check out though. Definitely check out the original anime, the original 1980s anime. Definitely check that one out. And finally, really chuffed to get this one, because the UK version is an absolute rip-off. But I can't believe that the Americans got treated to such a package, whereas we just ended up getting shafted. And it's just one of the biggest animes to come out of the 90s, and that is Street Fighter 2, the animated movie. And this is the collector's edition, and only in the US. This has got multiple versions of the film. So what I mean by that is that this film has got so many different cuts of the movie. So you've got the uncut version, you've got the PG-13 version, you've got the teen version, the family friendly. There's so many different cuts to this film. And back in the day here in the UK, our version was pretty much the uncut version. Now I'm not going to get into like what was cut and what not, because we'd be here all day. But basically, when they released this, when they re-released it here in the UK on Blu-ray, they gave us the cut down version. And not only that, but the edit of it in and of itself is a sloppy job. And where you will notice it is during the Vega Chun-Li fight. If you watch the Vega Chun-Li fight, if you're familiar with the movie, you will hear that the music skips because of the dodgy editing they did to cut out certain segments. And so when I found out about that, and when I looked up the footage on YouTube, I just refused to buy the UK Blu-ray. Like, I just wouldn't have it. And I said, you know what? I'm just going to stick to my VHS, stick to the DVD, because the DVD that we did get in the UK is uncut. So if you have the DVD, you're good. But unless you've got the one that came with the Street Fighter Anniversary game on PS2, if you're watching this movie through that, it's cut, unfortunately. But if you actually buy the DVD, it is the original uncut version. But anyway, going back to this has all the versions, all the because there was also, I should explain as well that they also changed the dub. So certain words got changed, certain swear words got changed to different words. So this has like multiple different edits of the film. It's crazy. Like, I can't believe the effort they went into putting this together, where they had the US censored version. There's an even more censored version. There's like a teen version, and then there's like a fully uncut version. It's crazy, and they're all in this. And there's even a really sort of little sort of featurette explaining the different versions and how they managed to put it all together. It's very, very interesting. But unfortunately, this is only region 1, so you do need a region 3 player to play this on. But it's definitely worth it, guys, especially if you love this film. Yeah, really, really chuffed to get this, and just to have all the different versions on it. And it looks great as well, so yeah, very, very chuffed to finally have this one in the collection. So that is it, guys. That is all the animes I have picked up. Thank you for sticking around and watching the entire video. I will be back. There is going to be a part 2 where I'm going to be showcasing all the other films I've picked up in recent months as well. But those have basically been all the animes I've picked up. Really been enjoying it. Been watching some of them so far. Really been loving it. It's been a stroll down memory lane. And I look forward to some of the stuff that I never watched fully back in the day, and stuff that I completely missed out, like Giant Robo. I never got a chance to watch that, and it absolutely looks fantastic. I'm definitely looking forward to watching a Doomed Megalopolis as well, as I do remember watching it on Channel 4 and just seeing a couple of episodes, but I never watched the whole thing, so really looking forward to that as well. But anyway, guys, man, thank you very much for sticking around and watching the entire thing. And as always, mate, please leave me a thumbs up. It really does help my channel, really does help my videos. Because again, YouTube, it's a bit funny with the algorithm. But so it really does help me out. And of course, if you like the channel, if you haven't done so already, please subscribe. And yeah, so just hold on for the next video, and I will be back soon. Bye bye.